I used to think marriage was like a wooden cabin in the middle of a pine forest, simple, cozy, and sturdy against storms. But then I realized if the foundation is silence, even a sigh can bring it all crashing down. I didn't notice the exact day things began to crack. There were no arguments, no shattered glasses, no third person. Just long stretches of silence. Dinners filled only with the sound of cutlery scraping plates. His touches felt like those of a stranger. My name is Peyton McAllister, 33 years old, living in Helena, the quiet capital of Montana. I'm a freelance editor for a small educational publishing house, working from home each day, repeating, like background music, coffee brewed, computer booted, then correcting the words written by someone else. My husband, Dylan McAllister, 36, is a civil engineer, working for a large bridge design firm in Missoula. He leaves at 6 a.m., returns by 6 p.m., always punctual, always smiling, always exhausted. But lately, the smile is gone, replaced by a vacant stare that passes through me, as if I were air in the home he merely resides in. We'd been married 5 years. The first year felt like that lavender field in Flathead he took me to when proposing, gentle, vibrant, full of promise. But as each year passed, those dreamlike blossoms withered in my heart, not because someone stepped on them, but because we quietly stopped watering the roots. Dylan's family is a separate universe, and I was never allowed inside. His mother, Elaine, a 62-year-old widow, fits the mold of a 1960s housewife. Impeccable, dignified, and commanding. From the first time I stepped into her house, I knew I wasn't welcome. She didn't have to say it. It was in the way she silently replaced the coffee spoon I touched or straightened the flower vase I had set. Everything was encoded in glances. Dylan's 2 younger sisters, Grace and Lena, surpassed me in every way, at least by McAllister standards. Grace, 34, is an OBGYN in Seattle. Lena, 31, runs a yoga studio in Bozeman and is a social media star with over 200,000 followers. And me, I correct middle school grammar. No advanced degrees, no impressive income, no talent for connecting with people like Lena, or saving lives like Grace. I didn't blame them. I just slowly faded back. During the monthly family dinners at Elaine's, I cleaned, did dishes, made small talk when needed, and quietly watched the clock, waiting to go home. But even home no longer felt like refuge. Dylan stayed so silent I could hear the dishwasher clinking from the living room. On some nights he lay with his back to me while I hugged a pillow, wondering what I'd done wrong. On some mornings he left before I finished brewing coffee, leaving behind a short note. Early meeting. Don't wait. I used to think if I just tried harder, cooked better, dressed nicer, spoke less, maybe Dylan would look at me the way he used to. But the harder I tried, the more I lost myself. Amid unspoken expectations, I forgot who I had been before becoming his wife. I don't know when the distance began. All I know is one day, I walked into the house after grocery shopping and realized I couldn't remember the last time Dylan held me. That was the first time I felt afraid. Not that he would leave, but that he would stay with a heart that no longer held me. I never thought something so small could bring me to my knees. 2 pink lines, clear, undeniable. I held the pregnancy test like a verdict, both a promise and a blade slicing through uncertainty. "Oh God," I whispered, hands trembling. 18 months. 18 long months of hormone shots, cycle tracking, and cold. Negative results that felt like my mother-in-law's disapproving glare. But now, it was real. I set the test on the table and took a few steps back, as if staring too long might break the miracle. I was pregnant. I was carrying Dylan's child. I leaned against the wall, tears streaming down freely. Not from fear, but because I thought, maybe this time Dylan would look at me like the woman he once loved. I sat by the window for hours, watching snow flurries dust the sidewalks, thoughts tangled like yarn clawed by a cat. Should I tell him right away? or wait for the perfect moment. But then I remembered his hollow stare last week, and I knew waiting wasn't an option anymore. I had to break the silence. Before it became a canyon, "You like lasagna with extra cheese, right?" I said aloud, trying to picture a warm dinner. It's been a while since I made it. I jotted down the ingredients, grabbed my coat and purse, forgetting the test still lay quietly on the table. Winter supermarkets in Helena are never crowded, just a chill wind and bright fluorescent lights that make everything too sharp. I wandered the aisles like a sleepwalker, grabbing a can of crushed tomatoes, eyes drifting toward the baby section. I walked over, I didn't know why. Tiny sweaters hung in neat rows, socks as soft as fresh snow. I reached out and touched a cream-colored onesie with the words, "Hi, I'm new here." My chest tightened. I grabbed prenatal vitamins. At the checkout, the elderly cashier, maybe 70, smiled. "First time being a mom?" I smiled faintly, nodded. "Yes, still getting used to the feeling." She touched my hand gently. "Take it slow. Babies need steady hearts, not teary mothers." I thanked her. For the first time in months, I felt like someone was on my side. On the way home, I imagined placing the test beside Dylan's dinner plate, with the note, "We're growing our family." No candles, no music, just something real, the only thing still real between us. As I turned onto our street, my heartbeat sped up. Dozens of cars lined the curb. His mother's, Grace's, Lena's, and Dylan's truck was crooked, like he'd slammed the brakes. I slowed the car, uneasy. Something off, too off. I held my grocery bag and the test hidden in my purse. I thought today would be the day I announced the most beautiful news of my life. I didn't know it would be the moment everything began to shatter. The front door was wide open before I touched the key. Dylan stood there. His eyes weren't cold, they were fire. "Come in," he said, voice dry like dead wood. I stepped in, still holding the bags. The living room was packed. Elaine sat in the center like a queen at an execution. Grace stood behind her, arms crossed. Lena leaned against the armrest, pale but razor-sharp eyes. And Kyle, Dylan's younger brother? I froze. Kyle, 28, jobless, always borrowing money from their mom, still living in the old house up north. More importantly, the one I had always avoided at family events. He smirked at me, lips curling like he was about to enjoy the most twisted show of the year. "Good," Elaine said. "She's finally here." Before I could speak, Dylan raised a sheet of paper, an A4 printout. I only managed to read the title, DNA Paternity Test, Confirmed Results. My throat closed up. "What is this?" I asked, voice barely a whisper. Dylan tossed the paper on the table like trash. "Explain or admit it." I stepped closer, scanning the document. My name, sample date 3 months ago. Conclusion: the child in Peyton McAllister's womb has a 99.9% probability of being the biological child of Kyle McAllister. I took a step back, feeling as if the floor had turned to thin ice. This is fake. I've never taken this test. I haven't even seen an OBGYN yet. Then what's this? Lena pulled a pregnancy test from her purse. "Found it in your bag while you were daydreaming at the store buying cheese." My mouth dropped open. They had gone through my bag. I just found out. I was going to tell Dylan tonight. It was supposed to be something good. "Something good?" Elaine cut me off. "You sleep with your brother-in-law and call that baby a family gift?" Grace said nothing. She just glared at me like a doctor performing an autopsy on a criminal. Kyle smiled. "Saw the test, thought it might be a surprise, so? Ran a DNA test to be sure. Guess I hit the jackpot." I turned to Dylan. "You believe this? You actually think I would do something like that?" His face twisted. "I don't know who I'm living with anymore." "You're a great actress, Peyton. Turns out, I'm just an idiot." I stepped closer, my voice shaking. "You once touched my heart, Dylan. How could you?" And then he spit in my face. The hot liquid ran down my cheek faster than my tears. The room went dead silent. Elaine stood and slapped me hard, my neck whipping to the side. Lena grabbed my hair from behind, yanking so hard my scalp burned. "Get out! Everyone needs to see what kind of woman you really are." I screamed, struggled, but no one stopped them, no one defended me, no one asked a single question. They dragged me out the door. Neighbors began peeking through their curtains. "Dylan!" I cried his name in desperation. "I'm pregnant, you know that. You know I didn't do anything wrong." He stood on the front steps, his shadow stretched under the porch light, his face void of any emotion. No step forward, no hand extended. Just silence, cold as early snow. I don't remember how I got into the car, only that my fists slammed the steering wheel until my knuckles bled. My head buzzed with the sounds. Accusations, spit, mocking laughter, and Dylan's silence. I started the engine. My hands trembled so much the key slipped in the ignition 3 times. As the wheels rolled away from that street, from the house I once called home, I also left behind a version of myself, the one who still believed in love, in loyalty, in blood ties. Wind whipped against the windshield. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't want to hear anything but the sound of my heart breaking, beat by beat. I died there, but someone else took the wheel. I drove straight out of the city, no destination. Every road sign was a reminder, the farther, the better. My phone buzzed. Dylan, then Elaine, then Lena. The screen flashed like nausea in my hand. I didn't answer. I stopped at an old gas station nearly 100 miles from Helena. Rusted roof, flickering neon lights. I walked in to make one call. "Clara," my voice was hoarse. "I need a place to stay, just for a few days." Her voice came through the other end, sleepy but snapping to alert. "Where are you? Are you okay?" "Peyton, your voice." I broke down. I couldn't hold anything in anymore. Not okay. Not even close. Dylan's whole family kicked me out. They said the baby is Kyle's. She went quiet for a few seconds, then gasped. "Those bastards! Drive to Boise. I'll wait. Tonight, tomorrow morning, doesn't matter, just get here." I hung up. Took another 2.5 hours to reach Boise. And 1 full hour just to calm myself outside Clara's door. She opened it before I even knocked. The light behind her was warm, like the first hug I'd felt since my life collapsed. Clara looked me over once, said nothing, then pulled me into an embrace. Tight, fierce, like someone trying to rescue a drowning soul. "You can stay as long as you need," she said. "I won't ask, I won't push. But Peyton, this time you have to survive." I nodded. No more tears. Tears couldn't buy back dignity. On the 3rd day, I went to a local clinic. The nurse squeezed my hand as the ultrasound showed a tiny heartbeat pounding like a war drum. "This baby is strong," she said, "and so is the mother." I smiled, the first one not soaked in sorrow. By day 10, Clara posted a freelance job listing on a design forum. I landed a remote editing position with a publishing company in Oregon. No one asked about my husband. No one requested family photos. All they needed was for me to meet deadlines and do my job well. I bought a new laptop. I chose every single item in the small room Clara had given me. I started writing a pregnancy journal. Not to remember, but to remind myself. I had stood back up from a storm. That evening, Clara walked into my room and placed a small wooden box on the table. "What's this?" I asked. "An early birthday gift," she smiled. "Open it." Inside was a silver bracelet engraved with the words, "Silence is not surrender, it's survival." I ran my finger across the engraving. She looked at me and said slowly, "Your silence isn't weakness. It's because you chose to live. You chose to keep the baby. And you don't owe anyone proof of that." I clasped the bracelet around my wrist. For the first time in weeks, I felt, maybe one day, I wouldn't just survive. I would live. I was peeling an apple for Henry's porridge when Clara's phone vibrated non-stop on the kitchen counter. "Boise Medical Center," the screen read. I frowned. Clara didn't have anyone hospitalized there. She was taking out the trash, so I answered, planning to hand it to her. Clara, this is the head nurse from the ICU. A man named Kyle McAllister was admitted this morning in critical condition due to a severe lung infection. He's been repeating a name nonstop. Peyton. My hand froze on the knife, the blade fell onto the cutting board. I'm Peyton, I whispered. Thank God. He's delusional but coherent. Just talk. I'm putting you on speaker. I clearly heard the sound of ventilators, mixed with groans that sounded like a broken soul. Peyton, Peyton, are you there? I didn't answer. My heart felt strangled. I did something terrible. I made it all up. The paternity test, it's fake. Bought it online. Printed from a design template. The doctor's signature, I forged it. The nurse gasped, oh my God. Kyle's voice shattered. I just wanted to punish you for not introducing your sister to me. You said she was too good for me. I felt humiliated. I felt small. I wanted to scream, to smash the phone, the world that had crushed me into dust. But I stood still, my fists clenched white. Kyle went on, each word a dagger. I found the pregnancy test in your purse. I built the whole setup, planted the fake test in Dylan's drawer. I knew he'd explode. I closed my eyes. The memories came back like a midday nightmare. His disgusted glare, the spit, the slap, the hair being yanked. I ruined you, all because of pride, my sick ego. The machines began to beep wildly. The nurse yelled something, the call cut off. I stood, frozen. Clara walked in, looked at me, then at the phone. Peyton, you're pale as a sheet. I could only say 2 words. Kyle confessed. The next day, the news spread like wildfire. Kyle was in the ICU, delirious, but his confession had been recorded. Clara sat beside me as I opened an email from an unknown address. A video. Footage from the hospital's camera. Kyle, wearing an oxygen mask, soaked in tears and blood. His voice shaky, fragmented but clear. Peyton is innocent. I made it all up. Please, tell her. 1 second later, the screen went black. Kevin called 17 times. I didn't answer. His mother, Elaine, sent a 3-page message asking to meet. I didn't reply. Lena sent flowers to Clara's doorstep. I threw them in the trash. Clara asked, do you want them to disappear or take responsibility? I said, both. I sent the video to a lawyer and to a journalist I knew from college. The next day, headlines blared across the front pages. Pregnant woman falsely accused, entire family fooled by fabricated evidence. Social media exploded. People called me a victim, a warrior, living proof of cruelty within so-called perfect families. I didn't respond to the press, didn't make a statement, didn't appear. I chose silence and let the truth do its work. I was watering pots of young rosemary behind the house when the doorbell rang. It wasn't the rushed press of a delivery driver, not Clara's usual 3 quick buzzes. It was steady, purposeful. I stood still, my palms damp. I didn't need to look through the peephole. It was him. I stepped to the front. Henry, now nearly 3, was playing with a plastic truck on the porch. He looked up and pointed. Someone's here, Mommy. I brushed his hair gently. Go inside for a bit, sweetie. I'll be right there. The boy obediently ran in without asking. I opened the door. Kevin stood there. Thinner. Sunken eyes. Wrinkled suit, like he'd slept in the car. His hands shook as he pulled out an envelope. Peyton, he said my name softly, like calling a ghost. I crossed my arms. How did you find me? Clara didn't say anything, but I hired a PI. A leaked video, a few side profile shots of Henry at the park, it was enough. I said nothing. The April wind lifted the edge of my shirt. He swallowed hard. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just want to see the boy, once. I tightened my arms. My son doesn't need late apologies. He needs safety. And you? You're the man who spat in my face in front of the neighborhood. His eyes turned red. I know. I remember every second. The slap, the accusations, leaving you in the snow. It wasn't snow, I replied. It was shame, freezing right into my heart. He lowered his head. I deserve your hatred. But Peyton, please, can I see the boy just once? Even 5 minutes? I took a step back. You're not worthy of being a father, Kevin. Not after what you did. But for Henry's sake, I'll let you see him. Under one condition. His eyes lit up. Anything. Claire will be sitting next to him. I'll be near the back door. You can talk to him. But don't touch. Don't call yourself Dad. Got it? Kevin nodded like a drowning man clinging to a rope. 10 minutes later, in the living room, Henry played with Legos. Clara sat close, watchful. Kevin entered, looked at the child, then sat down quietly like a shadow. Hi there. Hi, buddy, he said softly. Henry looked up. Who are you? Kevin gave a crooked smile. I'm someone who used to know your mom. The boy nodded seriously. I like trucks and ice cream, but Mommy says too much will hurt my tummy. Kevin laughed, then choked up. She's right, your mom's always right. He pulled a small wooden truck from his pocket and held it out. I made this. I hope you like it. Henry took it and examined it. Pretty, then turned to Clara. Mom will love it. Kevin swallowed hard. He stood up and nodded in thanks to Clara. He didn't look at me, only mumbled, "Thank you. At least, you didn't let me drown entirely in guilt." I didn't reply. I just closed the door. Softly, but firmly. I had set my alarm, not because I feared oversleeping, but because I wanted to control every second of this morning. 7 o'clock, IEM. I got up early, made oatmeal for Henry, packed his little toy bag he always brought to new places. Clara helped me choose a family diner in downtown Boise. One with big windows, plenty of light, and lots of servers. I wanted a public space, no shadows to hide in, no corners to lie from. 9:48 a.m. Kevin had arrived. I saw him sitting at the last table, by the window. No coat, no tie, just a faded blue shirt, and a look I didn't recognize. I walked Henry in. He squeezed my hand tighter when he spotted the stranger. His big, dark brown eyes were wide, cautious. Kevin stood up as soon as he saw the child. His body froze for a moment. I could see the shock on his face, like he was staring at a breathing, frowning, miniature version of himself. I pulled out a chair for Henry, buckled his booster seat, then sat across from Kevin. We didn't shake hands, didn't greet. Kevin smiled gently at the boy. Hello? There. Henry tilted his head. Who are you? I answered quickly, my voice light as air. A friend of Mommy's. Henry nodded, then pulled the wooden truck from his toy bag and started rolling it across the table. Kevin watched every turn of the wheels. I saw him clench his hands slightly, as if he wanted to reach out, then held back. He asked softly, He likes trucks? He loves anything with wheels, I replied. Garbage trucks, buses, wagons, but especially handmade ones. Kevin smiled painfully, just like I was as a kid. I said nothing. Henry suddenly looked up, pointing at the wall clock. Mommy, it's 10 o'clock, breakfast time? I ordered the food. Kevin only had coffee. He didn't take his eyes off Henry like he was trying to memorize every gesture, every little giggle. At the end of the meal, Kevin spoke, slowly. Peyton, I know nothing can make up for what I did, but if you'd allow me, on Henry's birthday each year, could I? There's no if here, I cut him off. Once a year, 2 hours, supervised, no decision rights, no titles. You are a guest. My voice was as firm as the wooden table. Kevin nodded, no protest. Henry tugged at my shirt. Mommy, I'm sleepy. I stood, placed money on the table. Kevin fumbled. Let me. I looked straight at him. You've already paid too much, but not for this breakfast. I bent down and picked up Henry. He rested his head on my shoulder, eyes fluttering. Kevin whispered as I turned away. I don't deserve it, but thank you for letting me see him. Even for just an hour. I didn't look back. I just knew I had survived that nightmare. And this morning, I saw sunlight without shaking. I never thought peace could come from such small things. A morning without frantic calls. A full night's sleep without dreams of spit on my face. Or my ex-mother-in-law's daggered glares. Boise had become home. No noise, no rush, no one knowing what my past looked like. Just Henry, me, and sunlit mornings by the window. I worked remotely for a publishing company in Oregon, proofreading children's books. Words became therapy. Each page a drop of ink, healing a crack inside me. Henry started part-time preschool. He loved orange and thought everyone adored garbage trucks. When his teacher asked about his dad, I just drew a dash. No explanation, no questions. One night, I was scrolling online and saw a post from a woman in another state. I was falsely accused of sleeping with my boss, lost my job, lost my husband, lost custody. I trembled. Not because the story was unfamiliar, but because it mirrored mine too painfully. I commented, I believe you. I survived something similar. Within a day, over 30 private messages arrived. Women I'd never met, from all over, telling their stories. Of being falsely accused, cast out by family, pushed aside by society. I started a group online, Silent Strength. The name came from a night I held Henry while he slept, watching his calm breathing and thinking, my silence was my greatest survival. In the group, no one asked for proof, no one doubted, everyone was believed, heard, held. With words. We met online weekly, then organized our first in-person meeting at the community center near Clara's house. 6 women from 4 different states flew in. We hugged like we'd known each other in a past life. No one asked, what happened to you? We only needed to look into each other's eyes. One had been accused of fraud to lose custody. Another pressured by her family to sign away assets after her husband died. One had been forced into silence. We shared legal resources, taught each other how to protect reputations, drafted reports, held mini workshops, and rebuilt what had been torn down. We didn't scream, didn't retaliate, didn't name names. We rebuilt and stunned them with the fact that we had survived. More radiant, stronger. Every month, I printed a quote for our group's message board. 1 month, silence is not surrender, it's strength. Another, I don't need forgiveness, I need respect. We weren't victims waiting to be saved. We were living proof of rebirth. Henry grew up among these strong women. He didn't know their pasts, but he saw them smile when called auntie, saw them clap when he sang about buses. And me? I was no longer the woman dragged through snow, no longer a voiceless victim. I am Peyton, the one who survived, and built a community where no one has to suffer in silence again. Peyton's story is powerful proof that silence is not weakness, but the strength of someone who chooses survival over revenge. From a woman falsely accused, humiliated, and cast aside, she rebuilt her life with resilience and love for her child. Peyton's new life is not just personal healing. It's the inspiration behind Silent Strength, a community where women are believed, heard, and empowered to speak their truth. What do you think about Peyton's journey? Do you feel empathy, anger, or have a perspective to share? Leave a comment below. And don't forget to follow the channel for more heartfelt stories about life and family.